All right, so get this. You guys send us this video, and it's supposed to be like an advanced English lesson,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually it's like this whole workplace drama.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's from this YouTube channel called Podcast Speak English,
Oh, okay.
and the video is called English Boost Level Up Your Skills. And we are going to dive in to this scenario where this person is trying to explain like why they missed a deadline.
Ooh,
And the language is fascinating.
I bet.
Yeah, we've got some really interesting words that pop up like tantamount,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
procrastinating. We've even got rationalized. It's a good one.
It's not just about the vocab, though, is it?
Right.
It's how we use it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how do we use these words, especially when we're in a tricky situation? You
Yeah,
know?
to like navigate
Yes.
the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's set the scene.
Okay.
The video starts with this dialogue between a boss and an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear just a little snippet of that conversation.
Okay.
So the employee is like totally trying to get out of this. You know, we hear, it wasn't my fault, unexpected technical problems, the system went down. I've definitely been there,
Oh, yeah.
trying to like soften the blow when things haven't exactly gone according to plan.
Of course.
What are your thoughts just like off the top of your head on the employee's approach here?
I mean, it's classic passing the buck, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
trying to like shift the responsibility
Yeah.
to these external factors.
Yeah.
But what really got me was how the boss just immediately picks up on it,
Oh, yeah.
like right away. He even says to the employee something like, "You're using these glitches as a crutch."
Oh, wow.
So he's setting a pretty firm tone, I think, right from the get-go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's this word that really jumped out at me.
Yeah.
It's tantamount.
Uh-huh.
And the boss says that the employee's excuse is tantamount to lying.
Ooh, that's a strong word.
That's pretty harsh, right?
It's tantamount basically means like equivalent to.
Okay.
So he's saying like the excuse is as good as a lie,
Wow.
which, you know, I think his frustration is understandable, but I do wonder if that kind of language might actually escalate the situation.
Yeah, because it's like, how does the employee feel, you know,
Exactly.
being spoken to like that? They're probably already stressed about missing the deadline.
Absolutely. And that could lead to them being defensive,
Right.
which just makes it harder to have a productive conversation about, you know, what really went wrong and how to avoid it happening again.
Exactly. So this brings us to this whole concept of procrastination, which the video mentions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all do it sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But why do we do it? Especially when we know it's probably just going to make things worse in the long run.
I think procrastination a lot of times comes from fear.
Okay.
Like fear of failure, fear of not meeting expectations, even sometimes like fear of success.
Oh, that's interesting.
And sometimes it's just easier to avoid a task than to face all those anxieties.
Right. So rather than just accepting procrastination as like this inevitable thing,
Yeah,
are there any strategies we can use to overcome it?
totally. One thing that can really help is breaking down big tasks into smaller, more manageable steps
Okay.
that can make it less overwhelming and easier to get started.
That makes sense.
Another good one is setting realistic deadlines and then like holding yourself accountable.
Right.
You can even ask a friend or a colleague to help you with that.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
Yeah, so you've got some support.
That reminds me of the boss in the video
Uh-huh.
who seems to be trying to get the employee to take more responsibility,
Yeah.
even though, you know, his language is maybe a little bit harsh at times.
Yeah.
But he even says something like, if you're in over your head, you tell me.
That's an interesting one. On the one hand, it shows that it's important to be self-aware, right?
Yeah.
And to seek help when you need it.
For sure.
But it does make you wonder, like, does the employee actually feel safe admitting that they're struggling, especially since the boss is so quick to use that kind of strong language?
Right.
You know, it might make them hesitate to be open about the challenges they're facing.
Yeah. So it's like open communication needs to go both ways.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
You need to have that open dialogue.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like finding that balance, right?
Right.
Encouraging honesty, but also making sure people feel safe enough to admit when they mess up.
Exactly.
Oh,
Speaking of honesty, the video actually goes on to talk about like cultural differences when it comes to taking responsibility.
right.
And they mention how in some cultures, like losing face is a much bigger deal than in others.
Yeah.
What did you think about that part?
Oh, it's so important. It's huge because in some cultures, admitting that you're wrong
Yeah.
is seen as like a sign of weakness.
Wow.
And that can have some pretty serious consequences,
Boy.
both socially and professionally.
That's a really good point.
So, you know, the employee in the video might be trying to avoid blame because of their cultural background, where it's more important to save face
Right.
than to just be like straight up honest.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't even considered.
It's a good reminder, though,
Yeah.
to be aware of those cultural differences.
Especially these days, you know.
Exactly, especially in workplaces that are so global.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of how that losing face thing might actually play out?
Yeah, so imagine like a team project
Okay.
and someone makes a mistake.
Mhm.
Now, in a culture where saving face is super important,
Yeah.
that person might not want to admit
Oh, right.
that they were involved.
Interesting.
Even if it means the team can't figure out a solution
Oh, wow.
because they're afraid of the shame or the loss of status that comes with taking responsibility.
Yeah, so it's like communication isn't just about the words.
Right.
It's about understanding all those unspoken rules
Yeah,
and the cultural context.
absolutely.
That's really fascinating. The video goes on to say that in North American business culture, owning up to mistakes
Mm-hmm.
is usually seen as a sign of integrity
Yes.
and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that you're willing to learn and improve. So how do you reconcile those two perspectives?
Ooh, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like it could easily lead to misunderstandings. It's all about communication
Okay.
and building trust. You know, creating an environment where people feel comfortable admitting they made a mistake
Right.
without being judged or punished for it.
Yeah, and focusing on solutions rather than blame.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But even in a culture that values honesty,
Hmm.
do you think there are times when maybe being totally transparent isn't the best approach?
That's a great point. There's a difference between taking responsibility and just oversharing. Like,
Right.
let's say an employee made a mistake because of something personal going on in their life.
Okay,
They might not be comfortable sharing all those details at work.
that's fair.
So it's about finding that balance
Right.
between honesty and discretion.
Yeah, using good judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to think about how much information is appropriate for the situation.
That makes sense. And also thinking about how your words might affect other people.
Absolutely. We all have different cultural backgrounds and experiences that
Yeah.
shape how we communicate.
This deep dive has been so interesting. I feel like we've uncovered so much.
I know, right? It's amazing how complex it all is.
It seems like such a simple English lesson at first,
It did.
but it's so much more than that.
Yeah, it just shows you that communication takes real thought.
Right.
You have to think about the language, the cultural context, the emotions involved.
Wow. I'm already thinking about how I can use this stuff in my own life,
Me too.
you know, both at work and personally.
It's a good reminder to be more aware of how we're coming across,
Yeah.
even when we don't mean to send a certain message.
That's like all those subtle things we do.
Exactly. And the more aware we are, the
Yeah.
better communicators we can be.
For sure. So we've talked about all these different things, you know, manipulative language,
Yeah.
cultural differences.
Yeah.
But before we finish up, I want to leave our listener with a question to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a time when you had to give someone difficult feedback. Or maybe you were the one receiving it.
Oh, yeah.
How did the language people used affect things?
It's a good question. We've all been there, right?
Holy.
Both giving and receiving tough feedback. And it really shows how important it is to choose your words carefully,
Yeah.
especially when things are getting a bit heated.
It's like we've been saying this whole time. Communication's not just about giving information.
Right. It's about so much more.
Yeah, it's about relationships and trust and dealing with tricky situations in a way that's sensitive.
Exactly.
And, you got to be aware,
It's a skill.
right?
And we can keep working on it
Totally.
throughout our lives, even if we think we're already pretty good at communicating.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
This whole conversation has made me really think about my own communication habits.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be using the word tantamount anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. It's a good word to be careful with. I think we can all take that away from this.
Yeah.
You know, just being more mindful of the language we use and how it might affect people.
Right.
It can help us be better communicators and build stronger relationships,
Yeah, I love that.
both personally and professionally.
So I think we pretty much unpacked this whole advanced English lesson.
Yeah, we did it.
And it turned out to be way more than just a vocab lesson.
It really did. It was fascinating to see how language plays such a subtle but powerful role in how we interact with each other.
For sure.
Really cool stuff.
Well, until next time, everyone keep those ears open and those minds engaged.